Been a wet and windy Port Elizabeth that played host to the 2002 Volkswagen Rally. But despite the inclement weather, the more than 50 teams competing in the National Championship event were treated to a warm and enthusiastic welcome. Hundreds of spectators flocked to Kings Beach to see the hot machines in action. The 2002 Volkswagen Rally sees the start of the second half of the National Rally Championship, and up to now it's been a season of attrition with some of the favourites already out of the running. However, for Volkswagen, who are also the sponsor of this event, it does seem like it's going right all the way.
But I also believe that Volkswagen has now waived the team orders, which means that we're going to see Keen and Abik at each other for the rest of the year. And that in itself is worth watching. And then, of course, Serge's got nothing to lose. He can only win rallies from here on, and I think that's his mindset. He's going to try and go as fast as possible. What is sad is that Gemmel isn't here at this event. His car's broken down somewhere in Africa during the Africa Championships. And that, especially in the muddy conditions we have today, could have made it very interesting. But then Skalk Burger is there, and maybe he can pick up where Gemmel left off.
So certainly very much in the offing on this particular event, a Volkswagen win. The N4 cars, people like Leon Buerta as well, of course, going to try and make maybe some inroads. And then on the A7 side, something like Jürgen Fecken could also give us a bit of a surprise, perhaps.
Well, I think there's another Volkswagen dice between him and Chad. And, you know, it's anybody's class championship at this point in time. And neither one is giving an inch, although I think Hergen has got the upper hand in the last few rallies. He's just driving that bit quicker. But, you know, muddy as it is today, power doesn't come into it anymore. So we might even see Hergen right up with the leaders. A hell of a dice all the way to the end of the year now.
Now, the conditions very wet. We're expecting the forest to stay wet throughout the event. Enzo, of course, starting in the first position. Is that going to be a good or a bad thing for him?
I think he would probably have opted for car number 3 or 4 if he had a choice. The problem in conditions as they are now is the front car makes all the marks. And you just, you know, you show the other guys where the danger spots are and the slippery spots and. And the forests are going to be wet for the rest of the rally. I mean, it's been raining here for the past few days. And although it's not as bad as Tsenin, it's very, very tricky forest. There's some very slippery sections in it and very tight. And if you go off the road there, you stay off the road. There's no way you're going to get back again. There's just not any traction next to the road.
Whatever happens, the scene is set for a very exciting event. A lot of dices throughout the field expected down here at the coast. The weather, of course, also a factor. We'll keep you up to date with what happens next. Few drivers, including Toyota ace Serge Damso, enjoy the tight and tricky confines of a spectator stage, and the wet Kings Beach affair was a good case in point. While undoubtedly a crowd pleaser, it posed an often awkward challenge for the drivers, as Jan Habik's understeering golf so clearly demonstrated. Young gun Jürgen Fecken is something of a whiz kid when it comes to the tight stuff, and looks every bit as quick as the more powerful Golfs. For navigator Dave Levkovitz, the trick is to provide clear, concise instructions to ensure that his driver has a clean run and a quick time. In theory, the extra traction of the all-wheel drive Class N4 Subaru Impreza of Skalk Burger and Piet Swanepoel should be an advantage on the water-slick tar. But in reality, the larger sedan wasn't as nimble as the smaller hatchbacks, much to the chagrin of the now drenched spectators. The drum only added insult to injury. On a Class A7 mission was Etienne Lawrence, who had a point to prove on Volkswagen's home turf. The class has been dominated by Volkswagen's Polo players this year, but Lawrence and navigator Andre Vermeulen were intent on breaking that stranglehold. Another all-wheel drive contender is the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo of Fernando Rueda and Martin Buerta, which has been stirring up the rally pot with some good results this season thus far. But finding his way through the first stage was proving a sterner challenge than the Cape Townian had anticipated. Stage 2 offered some relief from the tight stuff with long straights on dirt and tar, allowing the crews to extend their high-speed steeds. Damso was looking menacing. Having bowed out of the Sasol Rally, defending champs Harbeek and Douglas Judd felt they had a point to prove in Port Elizabeth, while also keeping their title hopes alive. With not only Damso, but also hotshot teammate and Logs leader Enzo Keen to watch out for, Harbeek needed a strong result. Fecken's season thus far has been a patchy one, but a brilliant third overall on the Sasol saw the Pretoria civil engineer rocket up the points table. He would be keeping A7 leader Chart van der Walt in his sights on this rally. Having given up all hope of defending their Africa Rally Championship crown, Berger and Swanepoel were intent on a clean rally and a good result after 2 consecutive non-finishes. All-wheel drive would prove handy in the wet too. Team Total lead man Lawrence looked in inspired mood in Port Elizabeth at the helm of a Corolla, said to be in particularly fine fettle for the event. But it was also clear that A7 class leaders Chart van der Walt and Mike Burrows were intent on consolidating that position. Their consistency has been the key to their success thus far. The early overall leader Rueda clearly had the bit between his teeth and looking forward to extending his N4 class lead. The times were proving just how quick the ever backfiring Lancer is in anger. Another young gun showing consistent 2002 form is JP Damso, whose steady performances in the Class A6 Team Total Corolla have propelled him into the top 3 on the overall championship table. Would that momentum continue in the Eastern Cape? One could say that Volkswagen Polo privateer Keith Coleman has an intimate knowledge of the area. He used to be a Port Elizabeth traffic officer. Another Volkswagen privateer starting to assert himself is Barry Grobelaar. After non-finishes on the first 2 events, his subsequent showings have been much more promising. Always a crowd favourite, Top Car's own tail-wagging BMW in the hands of Cliffy Blackman raises cheers wherever it goes, even more so if it's sideways.
In a couple of minutes.
With the organisers clearly intent on bringing the rally action to the people, Stage 3 was a mix of fast and slow sections using a flyover near Uitenhage. Again, the crowds arrived in their thousands to see the likes of Kuhn and Aries in action. The problem with stages such as this is that the drivers have very little margin for error, yet need to press on in their quest for the quickest time. With spectators crowding the pavements, it's not always easy to see the next corner, and there's always the danger of an errant soul venturing into the path of a fast-approaching rally car. Stage 3 saw the times of the top contenders very closely matched. Damso remained undeterred by the crowds, piloting his crisp-sounding Castrol Toyota Corolla to the 2nd quickest time. Showing the rest of the field a clean pair of heels were Harbeek and Judd. Their time of 3 minutes 48 seconds, all of 2 seconds quicker than Surge. The spectators, however, seemed oblivious of just how fast the Sasol Golf was approaching. The Works Polo player, Fecken and Levkovitz, was also one of the speed machines on this stage, although a slight misfire did not bode well for longer gravel stages due to be tackled that night. Again, the tight twists and hairpins of the stage were not to the Subaru Impreza's liking, with Berger having to wrestle with the wheel. But even the rain that was now starting to bucket down couldn't deter Lawrence from a blistering third fastest time. The Aldo Scribante Racing Circuit hosted the Volkswagen Rally's only super special stage, which pits two teams at a time against each other in a race against the clock. The results were always exciting and sometimes confusing. From the Damso Hodgson Castrol Toyota Corolla, it's plain to see how the wet tar makes the going tricky. Each car had to complete 2 different laps of the stage, which added some muddy tracks and tight gaps to the equation. Here Damso takes a detour through the pits, while the Sasol Golf of Keenan Uris flies past and assumes the lead, for now. Inside, the Corolla Surge was hard at work as he battled to keep the car on course. Enzo wasn't having the easiest time either, the Sasol Golf becoming more and more of a handful on the muddy track. While it looks as if Enzo is gaining the upper hand of the Toyota driver, the reality is that at this point they were very closely matched. Just who would win this dice would only be decided at the flying finish. Next, Fecken's Quicksilver Polo was paired with a faster but larger Golf of teammate Habich. It promised to be an absorbing fight. In the car with Habich, it's plain to see that the front-wheel drive Golf needs a lot of coaxing to control in the wet. It's no easier for Fecken, whose short wheelbase player is more than just a little twitchy in these conditions. Bergen is all arms as the Polo struggles for traction. Even so, he makes slotting the car through the narrow gap look all too simple. While the poor conditions do act as an equalizer, Habich has little trouble in shrugging off the challenge from Fecken and sets the fastest stage time in the process. Lawrence demonstrates just how easy it is to make a mistake. He overshoots the pit entrance and has to make a U-turn as Skalkberger zooms past. The big Subaru looks less affected by the conditions and makes the most of its all-wheel drive traction. Desperately trying to make up time, Lawrence turns onto the path too early, clipping a tyre on the way in. But it's about to get even worse. The momentum of the car easily outstrips its marginal traction, and the Team Total Corolla plows into the tyre wall. The damage is slight, but in the heat of the moment, nothing seems to work anymore. Meanwhile, Raiders Lancer arrives on the scene and is about to be held up. The often chaotic but always entertaining Aldo Scribante stage was the last before a service break back at Kings Beach. Skalkberger was not impressed, however.
Scott, there's just been a lot of Mickey Mouse nonsense up to now, isn't it?
So, yeah, there's a word I wanted to say, but I'd rather not say it over the TV, but it is a lot of nonsense. So we must get it behind our backs and get into the mountains.
But you're going to have 2 tough stages in the mountains from tonight. Muddy, dark.
Yeah, tell me something I don't know. It's definitely going to be a difficult one. I think that's going to decide on the whole rally is going to be tonight.
After your bad luck in the last rally, car feel okay?
Yes, at this stage the car feels fine, so hopefully it stays like it.
Going to be nice to me. For the first time in your life, you're leading a national championship
I
rally.
know. Are we on the camera now? Is it rolling?
Yes.
Well, better you start again, I suppose. I mean, it's going to get a bit much. Sorry, but you better start again. Yeah.
You're enjoying leading the rally?
Yeah, it's been great. Yeah, suddenly it's fantastic. I mean, I never expected it, and we're there. The next thing we're there, and it's lovely to be in front of all these Volks drivers. You know, I have a great friend, Enzo. It's fantastic to be in front of him, the winner of the Sassel. You know, it feels very good. We go out for lunch when we got home again, and then we'll have a big problem.
You must be worrying that Spain might call you up for the war against Morocco. Enzo, you've been going all day, but nothing has happened except handbrake turns.
Yeah, we've been busy a day. We've only done 12Ks, so I think halfway through the first stage, we would have the rally would have started. In the first gravel stage now. It's a 29K stage, and the tyre gamble is on again because, you know, do we go on wets and they're quite prone to punctures, or do we go on a semi-wet tyre but they'll be slow? I think it'll be interesting at the end of that stage. You should be there.
It's got to be a brave man that goes into Longmore at night without wet tyres.
I know, only the bravest would. But it's a gamble to take, you know. On the stage after that, it's 40 kilometers. Now, a flat tyre would cost you 3 minutes, and you could even have a second flat. So those are the odds we're weighing up at the moment.
By that time, it was already dark. That, plus the soggy route, would soon dish up a few surprises, and Enzo was about to launch his attack. Unfortunately for Toyota, any chance of Damso scoring a victory ground to a halt in this stage. A minor overshoot turned into a major calamity when Serge chose a shortcut to get back on the route and promptly buried the Corolla in a grass-obscured ditch. Behind him, Habich was giving it stick, attacking the Toyota in an effort to gain the overnight lead. The sight of Serge's Corolla stuck on the side of the road would have pleased the South African champion, but there would be no letting up. Kuhn was on a charge and would set a time 14 seconds faster than Habich to leapfrog to the front. Also storming along in the evening gloom was Fecken's A7 Polo Player. By comparison, the warble of the Berger Swanepoel Class N4 Subaru was something of an anticlimax. As for Lawrence, he overcame the earlier mishap and seemed relieved to be back in real rally country. The surfer's paradise of Jeffreys Bay was the backdrop for perhaps the most crowded spectator stage of all, with Enzo delivering a commanding performance in front of an appreciative public. Although still second on the road, Damso's mishap had pushed him far down the field in actual terms and effectively out of contention. Habich, on the other hand, now knew that the race was on and wasn't going to let up for an instant. Always mercurial in Gymkhana-style stages, Fecken didn't disappoint his fans. Africa Rally champion Schalk Burger was playing a more tactical game and had tapped off somewhat. And flying the team total flag, the Corolla of Lawrence was also going great guns. Despite having both Fecken and Lawrence ahead of him, Van der Walt appeared content to bide his time on the tar. The Lancer of Rueda may look like a tame beast, but Fernando set the fastest time in the Jeffreys stage. For now, JP Damso seemed to be very much in control of the Class A6 show. Veteran rallyist Leon Buerter made his comeback in a Subaru Impreza at the beginning of the season and has already re-established his competitiveness. But in Jeffries, a slight judgment error saw the Impreza on the pavement after hitting a palm tree. Fortunately, the accident damage was minor. Dean Sanders was still calling the tune, although arch rival Richard Bem was staying in close attendance. It wasn't a good night for the Damso family. On the 44-kilometer monster closing stage of the first day, JP seemed to clip a bank on the right and then go plunging off an embankment on the left. By the time they'd freed the Corolla, more than 40 minutes had elapsed, and they were subsequently time-barred. As the crews headed back to PE for a well-deserved sleep, it was Kuhn who led the field by more than 2 minutes after a clean run, while a flat tyre dropped Habich to 5th. Rueda, Fecken and Lawrence made up the top 5 balance. In 6th and 7th, Berger and Van der Walt were still in touch with the front group. Buerter, Coleman and Christopher Shane Saville filled the minor placings. Day 2 of the 2002 Volkswagen Rally, and in many ways this event has only just started after a lot of tar stages early on day 1. The action in the forests last night changed a lot of things, and Cyril at the moment, the man of the moment, of course, Enzo Key.
A bit more mud than you expect when you're off the road and everybody's back in the rally again. So I think it's going to take a lot of concentration on his side to keep the lead and just stay where he is. And the others have got it all to do to make up. Search right from the back, and Habich's got to make up some time to stay in the championship. He's in, 5th place or something. So, yes, I think there's going to be a lot of action at the back.
Any hope of warmer weather was dashed by a morning that got greyer and colder. With more than 2 minutes in hand, Enzo knew that it would be all but impossible for Habich to catch him. Still, with conditions treacherous, there was every reason to keep up a pace just in case something went wrong. If the previous night Stage 8 had claimed its share of victims, then Stage 9 continued the trend. Rueda, in 2nd place overnight, had to see that position revoked by a left front puncture, costing him almost 2 minutes while handing 2nd place to Habich. Trailing Fecken by only 12 seconds at the start of day 2, Team Total's Lawrence could taste a Class A7 victory and was going all out to catch the Volkswagen. Then drama. The Sasol Polo was parked on the stage as the hapless Fecken and Lefkowitz struggled to swap a flat tyre. Lawrence was now leading the class. The hottest pace on day 2 was being set by Habich. His flat on the long Stage 8 the night before had virtually put him out of contention, but the wily Volkswagen ace kept the pressure on, hoping for a miracle. He would set the fastest time here. With a fresh wheel bolted on, Fecken raced hard to make up lost time, although he must have realized that the odds on him taking the class had now lengthened considerably. The Berger Swanepoel Subaru was another victim of Stage 9, as yet another left front puncture cost the Middelburg businessman valuable time. Behind the struggling Subaru, Damso's Castrol Toyota Corolla was rapidly closing. Even four-wheel drive cars struggle in the slippery stuff, especially with a puncture. Although far down the field after the previous days off, Surge was still giving it stick as he closed on Berger. The rally was not going well for Van der Walt and Burrows. A flat on the last long stage 8 saw the Class A7 crew lose 2 minutes to Fecken and Lawrence. Their woes continued on day 2 with another flat hamstringing their chase and dropping them another 1.5 minutes behind Lawrence. Stage 9 was turning into something of a killer. Coleman and Koch's privateer Sasol polo player was also battling with a wayward right front wheel, costing them more than 3 minutes. Behind Coleman, Buerta and Van Vuren were catching up fast, their all-wheel drive Subaru reveling in the wet and muddy conditions. Christovitz and Shane Saville's A6 Toyota Conquest had briefly led the class after JP Damsu's demise in stage 8, but a sick engine spelt the end of their rally after another promising performance. At the Longmoor Forest service point, mud seemed to be enemy number 1. We caught up with Toyota Ace navigator Guy Hodgson.
I mean, you've been the quickest all along anyway, the whole year. And there's just no results. That's very frustrating, isn't it?
Very frustrating. We've had a very, very difficult year indeed. I think we've now had 3 or 4 retirements while leading. And we've had a problem last night, a very minor off, which cost us a lot of time, again, while leading. So we're doing our job, but it's just not quite coming through at the moment.
Was that a navigator fault by any chance?
No, I don't think it was a navigator's error. No, I don't think so. Come on, we went off the road,
Stage 10, and with only 3 real gravel stages left, it seemed to be all over bar the shouting, with Kuhn very much in the driving seat. And just to prove that he wasn't about to tap off, Enzo set the fastest time in this stage. Behind the 2 battling Golfs, Raider looked as if he had resigned himself to 3rd place and a class win. The puncture in stage 9 served as a reminder of how treacherous conditions were, and after the Sasol's non-finish, the Cape Townian was keen on chalking up some vital points. Wasn't letting the puncher in stage 9 discourage him. Despite not trailing both Lawrence and Van der Walt by several minutes, the young Volkswagen driver was giving it stick. For Class A7 leader Lawrence, it was a matter of keeping it on the road. The Team Total driver now enjoyed a comfortable lead over Van der Walt's Polo, but an off or a serious puncture could still change all that. The most committed of the top drivers at this point was Habik, still hoping to pressurize Enzo into a mistake and still chasing stage wins. But the small advantages he was eking out made little impact on Kuhn's overall lead. With Reda well ahead in the class, Berger and Swanepoel were holding station, having also decided that getting through the mud and to the finish was the priority. Damso and Hodgson having to tackle day 2 knowing that their 8-minute deficit on the leaders was insurmountable must have been frustrating. But a third place in A8 would at least put some points in the kitty. The team total Toyota Corolla of Craig Trott and Gerard Snyman had kept it tidy for much of the event and were now leading A6 after both JP Damso and Chris de Wit had bowed out. Proving just how reliable the Volkswagen Polo players can be, privateers Krobler and Van Beek had broken into the top 10 with 5 stages to go. In Class N2, Dean Sanders and Ashley Gierke were still looking forward to a class win in their team total Toyota Corolla. And in the Castrol Toyota Media Challenge, Top Cars Dani Buerta enjoyed a substantial lead. Although the occasional patch of sunshine seemed to promise the advent of better weather, the fog and the rain kept clinging to the high ground, and in stage 11, mud and slush were still taking their toll. Leaders Keen and Aris seemed untouchable in their Sasol Golf, but why was Enzo having to work so hard to keep the Volkswagen on the road? From above, the reason for Enzo's in-car workout became clear. The Golf had suffered a right rear puncture. By comparison, Rueda made it all look like a walk in the park, albeit a muddy one, and took the stage win. For Fechen, the troubles were continuing. A dislodged rear brake caliper made life on this stage a misery. Ahead in the class, Lawrence and Vermeulen kept it clean. Did Habich know about Keen's puncture, or was he simply on his own mission? He certainly was the most aggressive driver of the morning, but despite Enzo's puncture, Habich could only take 23 seconds off his team rival in this stage. For Berger, the rocky terrain on the early part of the stage must have been reminiscent of the conditions he encountered during his successful Africa Rally Championship campaign in 2001. Further back in the field, the team total Toyota Taz of Rodney Versace and Carolyn Swan was trouncing the rest of the Class A5 contingent. Versace was delighted with what he described as a flawless car. Richard Bem and Grant Sinclair had been in a close N2 battle with the Sanders Gierke Corolla for much of the event. Riss in the Works A5 Volkswagen City Golf seemed set for another good finish, although out of touch with class leader Versace. And in N3, Jeff Mortimer and Jerry Gierke kept the geriatric flag flying, and at a fair turn of speed too. Back at the Longmore service point, keeping the cars clean was still a major challenge.
Enzo, it's been a good day so far, but you had your first misstep.
Yeah, we also fell victim to a flat tire. You know, like you said yesterday, you have to be brave to go into these forests without wet tires. But we have to take up that challenge because it's so rocky at the moment that you just can't risk losing. The average is probably 2 to 3 minutes on changing a tire. So we're running the dry tires, and even with that, we had a flat now. So it shows you how rocky it really is.
But at this point in time, you must be just thinking of driving through to the finish now.
Oh, I'm having fun. I'm enjoying this. This is brilliant. The fog, the rain, the wet, that's what rallying's about, and I'm really enjoying the car at the moment, to be honest.
But I know you just lost too much time in that first stage this morning.
Yeah, so we lost over about a minute 30, a minute 34 to Enzo, and Yanni took about same. So now it's just too much. We're taking a bit of time off him, but not enough. We're taking ones and twos, so we're back to third, and that's where we are.
How far did you have to go with the flat wheel?
16 Ks. We had a puncture in at about 8.5. So yeah, 16 Ks. It was a left front, so you can't turn. It's horrible.
And if any question that he asks you don't like it,
I've just given him a private pep talk there.
just give him a rev about it.
Just a private pep talk.
Jan, you've had a hell of a go this morning after your unfortunate stage last night, but back in second place.
Yeah, it was a serious disappointment for us last night. We got a punch of 40 Ks from the end, so we lost a whole bag of time. And so the best we could do today was move ourselves up to second, and that's what we've done. So for now, we're holding stations.
I must say, there's been some very spirited driving from your side this morning. How's the car?
Oh, the car's behaving very well, apart from the puncture we had. The muddy conditions are pretty tricky, so we tend to go a little bit wide now and then, but apart from that, it's going very well.
The last gravel stage of the day was bathed in welcome sunshine, although it came too late to make much of a difference to the wet conditions. After one of his best rallies ever, Rueda was keen to get the big Lancer Evo to the finish, but the beast became a little disobedient in the very first corner after the start. That little mishap didn't stop the Cape Townian from giving it a good final go, even over the rough stuff. Fecken, meanwhile, could do little more than pressing on, with a deficit between him and Chart simply too much to make up. Lawrence must have been relieved that the event was slowly coming to an end. His approach of keeping it clean and on the road was now paying handsome dividends. On his way to yet another stage win, Habich was not about to concede defeat. With no real chance of challenging Rueda's class lead, Berger and Swanepoel were soldiering on in their N4 Subaru Impreza. And proving that there's no lack of fire in the old man, Chart van der Walt set the quickest A7 time in stage 12, showing up both class leader Lawrence and young gun Fecken. In N2, Sanders looked as if he had the class win in the bag, but a bad puncture in this stage saw them retire for the first time this season. That left Bem and Sinclair in the Class N2 lead with nobody else to challenge them. The top car BMW seemed on track for another solid performance despite brake problems in the night stages. The ex-Martinez Breers A5 City Golf was in the hands of British rallier Stephen Putter, who was running third in class. Well, one of the highlights of the Volkswagen Rally thus far has been the number of spectators we've seen at all the stages. It's really been particularly worrying that there have been no attempts at all to control them or to ensure their safety. Sorrel, what does one need to do to address the issue?
Well, I think for one, we have too many spectator stages, not only on this event, on all the events. And it's totally uncontrollable, as you say. There's some people lying on the pavement next to us where cars will soon be doing 200 kilometers an hour. And you just can't control that. I think we need less spectator events. And as the rallies have proved, I think that people go out to watch it. If you remember this morning at 8 o'clock in Longmore Forest, there were hundreds of people there. So it's not a case of having to bring the rallies to people anymore. They actually go out and watch the stuff. And like I said before, all you need is one car to go off and kill a few people, and that's the end of rallying. And I think the organizers are totally missing the point there.
course, I mean, if we also look at the stage, we've seen very little in terms of marshalling. In other words, you've got people who want to come and see the action, nobody really directing them and telling them to stay away, to be away from the cars, to be on the right side of the corner, etc., etc.
I don't think you can ever marshal enough people to control big crowds like this in the middle of a town. That's just totally impossible. And we're looking for trouble, and the sooner we stop it, the better.
The speed of the Kuhn Aris Sasol Golf in the very tight spectator stage only underlines just how important it is to properly control the rally crowds. With the benefits of all-wheel drive, the Lancer Evo of Raider was impressively quick out of the corners. Adding insult to injury, Fecken's Sasol Polo player was misfiring again. Now in his element and a car that sounded on song throughout, Lawrence made the most of the all-tar stage. By now, Habich must have realized that bar a last-minute non-finish, Kuhn would take the win. However, he was still spectacular to watch. While the Subaru was swift through the tight stuff, its top speed on the way to the flying finish raised some eyebrows. Damso and Hodgson put up a great show for the spectators, piloting their Castrol Toyota Corolla to an impressive stage win. Back at the Port Elizabeth beachfront, the biking fraternity was entertaining the crowds, waiting for the arrival of the rally contingent. Although only 970 meters long, this final stage of the Volkswagen Rally must have felt as if it was taking forever for Kuhn and Aris, despite knowing that their second victory in a row was a virtual certainty. In what was becoming something of a tradition on this event, Raider and Buerta managed to get it all wrong again, but still won N4. After a composed and near-perfect performance, A7 victory went to Lawrence and Vermeulen in the team total Toyota Corolla. A6, the spoils went to another team total crew, this time the Toyota Corolla of Trott and Snyman. Versace and Swan made it 3 class wins for team total in their A5 Toyota Taz. And after the demise of Sanders, an impressive performance by Bevan Sinclair gave them the N2 class victory. Mortimer and Hiraka notched up a well-deserved class win in their Nissan Sentra. Thus, the final results show Kuhn and Aris taking first overall in the A8 win, with Sasol Volkswagen teammates Habich and Judd second. Raider and Buerta's third place in the Lancer Evo also gives them the N4 win, while Lawrence pips the Volkswagens to the A7 post. 2 more N4 all-wheel drives slot into the top 10 in the guise of the 2 Subarus of Berger Swanepoel and Buerta van Vuren, with Grobler van Dijk and the top car BMW of Blackman Claassen rounding off the list.
This is getting to be a habit now. 3 wins in 5 starts.
Yeah, it's a good habit. It's nice to do the double, especially seeing as the last event was our sponsor's event, and this is Volkswagen's event, so it doesn't come any better than this. It's been a good event for us. I think tyre choice was important, and we got it right, and the chauffeur here drove like a star, so yeah.
It seems like the two of you are starting to combine very well now.
Yeah, I think it's taken us 2 or 3 events. There are still occasional misunderstandings, but we live with those, and I guess there'll always be misunderstandings. It's just a matter of minimizing them.
Be honest now, did you have a bit of a learning curve this year?
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot quicker. Things happen a lot quicker.
So another perfect drive nearly. Had a bit of a flat wheel this morning that could have upset things a bit, but otherwise it was a fantastic rally, really.
No, thanks, Sorrel. I think we did it last night. It's we won the rally in the fog and the rain last night, and enjoyed doing so. And today was formality. We just had to run through the stages faultlessly, and.
It's about time they did call him up in Spain, eh?
The Spaniard has arrived. Cape Town's going to be small town again. No, it's great for Volkswagen, obviously, to put the car in the first place, and it ran absolutely faultlessly. The car's really strong. I must commend it for that.
As the champagne flowed in all directions, Volkswagen had every reason to celebrate a great 1-2 result on their home event, with Kuhn and Habich now set to chase the title all the way to the line. In third, Rader and Buerta also deserve credit for one of their best performances this year. We've come to the end of the 2002 Volkswagen Rally, perhaps not an event quite as exciting as we'd hoped for. Certainly one that's been drenched and been cold, and it's ironic that the sun, Sorrel, has only really started to shine now just as the cars are coming in for the final one. But Enzo, he did well, and he certainly deserved at the end of the day to take the win.
I think he drove very well from the start. He was always in contention, always up there. I think he was never more than about 10 or 12 seconds behind the leader. And like you say, yes, it's a pity Serge once again wasn't in the mix at the end. But things like that happen. What is definitely happened now is it's going to be Enzo or Yanni for the championship, because they now got a totally unassailable lead nearly.
Interesting, though, to still see that despite conditions that should have favoured the four-wheel drive cars all along, and despite the fact that Rader certainly probably had his best event as far as we're concerned, that it still very much was an A8 rally after all.
It was, but then you must remember that the top drivers in the country are all employed in the A8 teams. Albig, Kim, Dempsey. Those are the top guys in the country, and they're not that easily faced by conditions. And a guy like Fernando will just have to catch up, because that's really what it's all about at this point in time. He's got the car, and he's certainly driving a hell of a lot better. But these guys are professionals, and there's conditions like this, it certainly shows.
Well, certainly from a sponsor's point of view, from a Volkswagen point of view, another dream win on their own event. Enzo now establishing himself as the top contender in the championship. We have 3 more events to go in the season. Anything could still happen. We'll keep you posted and see you at the next event.